By the way, I wouldn't be a reporter if I didn't ask. Ja's summer. What's the summer look like? How's he doing? How's he feeling? How ready is he?
I'm telling you guys right now, Ja Morant is coming for all the work this year. All of it. How soon they forget.
Man.
That's all we need.
Like
How soon they forget. Oh, buddy.
No better source on the Ja Morant mindset.
How soon they forget.
That right there is Ja Morant's agent, Mike Miller. And about a week after he made that comment, Ja also posted this on his Instagram story.
They keep disrespecting my boy 12, man. They keep disrespecting my boy 12.
It's clear that Morant feels forgotten by the league, and with the emergence of all the new young stars, one could argue that the NBA actually left him behind. Just 2 seasons ago before his suspension, Ja Morant was making his mark in the league in a way that only a handful of NBA players have ever done. He came into the league making a lot of noise right from the jump, but in 4 seasons, Ja was already an icon in the league. Not only was he filling the stat sheets, he was also filling up seats because when he's playing, he's a human highlight reel.
Opening round series, Morant. Oh! A jawbreaker! Avery Bradley with the deflection against Bang. Oh my God! What an incredible block!
In just his 3rd season, Ja Morant generated over 385 million views across all NBA social media platforms, which put him behind only LeBron and Steph Curry. That's the kind of gravity that Morant has, which is why huge brands like Nike were trying to make him the face of their brands. He was being talked about as the closest thing to prime Derrick Rose, which makes sense because of how electric he is, but there was actually a time when his numbers were better than what Derrick Rose put up in his MVP campaign. And in that same season, he led the young Grizzlies to the 2nd spot in the West, so it wasn't just empty stats because he was impacting winning as well, while having fun with it.
It's a parade inside my city.
The OGs of the game were also impressed by the way he took over the league, and NBA legends were even comparing themselves to Morant because of the way he was dominating in the early years of his career and the way he was bridging the culture and the NBA.
There's no doubt he's the most entertaining and electrifying player there is in the league. I mean, if I had a chance to see one NBA game the whole year courtside, one NBA game, I would go see Ja Morant play.
Ja also showed that he's a player who rises to the occasion. In matchups with the NBA's best players, he showed up and showed out, whether it was LeBron, Curry, Kyrie or KD. Ja hung with the best of them both in the regular season and in the playoffs. But as we know, Ja Morant's rise to the top came to a halt quickly after multiple off-the-court incidents, most notably him flashing a firearm on Instagram Live twice. And the toughest part about his career being put on pause due to the suspension and the shoulder injury is that when things began to slow down for Ja, the league started to evolve at a historically fast pace. The 2023-24 NBA season will be remembered as the year in which the torch was passed on to the next generation. The quote-unquote next face of the league was a huge topic of discussion throughout the season, but Ja Morant's name was not a part of it.
I would say Shea, Ant-Man. I feel like those are 2 of the guys, that that can continue the torch. After I'm done, after Steph, KD.
When you look to the future, the guys that are ready to take the mantle, the kind of young bloods that we're going to look at. He brought up your name. He brought up Shea Gilgeous-Alexander. Your thoughts about that?
I think that's dope because I think he's exactly right. Me and Shea and Luka for sure.
Right.
Yeah,
you
100%.
wanted it.
What's crazy though is that before these guys were even mentioned, it was clear who the next face of the league was, and there was really no question that it was Ja Morant.
The most marketable guy in our league, the face of our league going forward. So many kids are inspired by what he does.
You just think he's a new face?
Of the league? Yeah, for sure.
But all that changed because Ja Morant wasn't on the court this season, and therefore he couldn't insert his name in that conversation. This past season was also the first time since 2010 where we saw 2 conference finals matchups that did not include Curry, LeBron, or Kevin Durant. Instead, it was filled with young stars like Anthony Edwards, Luka Doncic, Jason Tatum, and Tyrese Halliburton. Guys who were Morant's peers, and for some of them, he was clearly ahead of them before the suspension. Just for perspective, when Ja Morant played his last game before the suspension, the Timberwolves were an 8th seed that went on to lose 4-1 to Denver. This year, they made it to the conference finals, and many are crowning Anthony Edwards as the face of the next generation of basketball, which is a position that previously belonged to Ja Morant. Just a few seasons ago, Ja Morant sent them home in the first round, and now he has to sit around and listen to this.
Guess who's in front of him? Anthony Edwards, a guy that went set right in his seat.
At the time of the suspension, Jokic and the Nuggets were also still without a championship, but today, they, along with Boston, look like the teams to beat in the league. So the league has actually had 2 NBA champions since the whole Ja Morant incident. And in that same season that Ja Morant had his gun incident, the Oklahoma City Thunder were a 10th seed that didn't make the playoffs, and right behind them was Dallas at the 11th spot. But both teams just came from the playoffs, and Dallas specifically just came from the finals. And moving on, Victor Wembanyama was yet to make his NBA debut, and guys like Tyrese Halliburton, Jalen Brunson, and SGA were still climbing up the ranks and really solidifying themselves as legit superstars in the league. Right now, all of them are all NBA caliber players, with Shea being an MVP candidate, Halliburton is an Olympian, and Brunson is the king of New York. That's how much the league has changed since Ja Morant played a full season. He was ahead of all these guys, but now when he returns, he'll be playing catch up with them. But with his level of talent, there's no doubt that Ja Morant will continue to make noise after he returns. And as you saw in the intro, he now has newfound motivation because of all the time he's been forced to take off. But what he can't guarantee is whether he'll get back the opportunities that he missed out on. Take for example Team USA. If Ja had played a minimum of 50 games this season, there's a big chance that he would have been selected for the Team USA roster in the Olympics over Tyrese Halliburton. And that's not a knock on Tyrese, but Ja was a second-team All-NBA player the last time we saw him, which suggests that he was among the top 10 to 15 best players in the league. In addition to being a superstar and a top 10 to 15 player in the league, Ja Morant also had the rare opportunity of having a great young team around him. That Memphis Grizzlies team from 2 seasons ago was a defensive monster of a unit, both on the perimeter with Dillon Brooks and in the paint with Jaren Jackson, Brandon Clark, and Steven Adams. In the 2022-23 season, they had the second highest defensive rating in the NBA, but in this past season, they fell all the way to 12th. Defensive rating and winning go hand in hand, and that's exactly why Ja and the Grizzlies were able to have some good playoff runs. Just 2 years ago, they were going head-to-head with the Golden State Warriors and holding their own before Ja got injured. The Warriors went on to win the NBA championship, but the gap between them and the Grizzlies really wasn't big at that time, and they were the 5th youngest team in the league at that time. Today, the Grizzlies look completely different, and the many players that gave them the depth that they had aren't even on the team anymore. And one of the best things about that team was their chemistry, which you can't really force or put together in one season. So because of all the changes, when Ja returns, he'll also have to rebuild that chemistry with his teammates. All that to say that the window of opportunity that Ja Morant had before the suspension was pretty rare, and now it's much smaller than it was. Especially because you never really know how long explosive players like Morant can dominate for. But hopefully Ja will return as himself, and although it might be an uphill climb back to the top of the competitive West, we know that he has the talent to do it. Let me know what you think in the comments. Do you think that Ja will return and be a top point guard on a winning team? Or will all that he's gone through cause him to take a step back in his progression? Also, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. Until next time, peace.